Welcome, my friends. Welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford. It is Thursday, August 25th. We are here live. It's a free-for-all today. We'll be here for the next hour or until we run out of questions. So it's up to you. And the phone lines are open. If you have a question, a comment, a topic, hold on one second. Welcome, my friends. Welcome to my world. That's the second time I said that this morning. It is Thursday, August 25th. I started the show a couple minutes ago and nobody could hear me. It was operator error. I forgot to press one of the buttons I'm supposed to press. I'm waiting. We finished our app. Our app's out in the wild. People are loving it. We have a whole roadmap. We're going to continue to improve it, but we're really excited about where it is. So now the programming team is working on my side of the software because right now we're hacking a bunch of different pieces together to make this work. And it requires me to think and press buttons, and that's not a good idea because my mind gets so wrapped up in the show. I tend to screw things up if I have to do too much. So hopefully they'll get that done soon, and I can stop screwing up the start of the show. But we're here, we're live. It is Thursday. It's a free-for-all today. Anything goes. We'll stay here for the next hour or until we run out of your questions, so it's totally up to you. If you have a question, a comment, a topic, anything goes, pick up the phone and join us. I have some stuff. I'm kind of all over the board today. So calls are starting to come in. I'm going to touch on a couple topics here, and then we'll get to some phone calls. Where do I want to start? Let's start with this one. Not a big deal, but I clearly remember, I think it was 2018, we started talking a lot about autonomous trucks. A lot of announcements that year. A lot of companies started up. We talked about it a lot, and then it kind of fades off and we don't really pay attention to it. And there's a lot of autonomous trucking going on in the country today. A lot. Like more than you could possibly keep up with. They're moving a lot of freight with autonomous trucks, a lot of different companies, a lot of different tests going on. But I remember when I first started talking about it, and I get why truck drivers don't like this topic. I get it. Nobody wants to be replaced by a machine or a robot or a computer, but it happens. It's going to happen. It's going to continue to happen. It will happen in trucking. It's already happening. But just like electric, and I know we kind of confuse these two, we lump them together all the time, and I don't know why, but it's here already, but it's not going to take over the industry for decades. There are still going to be human drivers for a long time, but we're already moving freight. It's coming. Every year, I made the claim that every year there will be more electric vehicles on the road, whether we like it or not. I'll also make the claim there will be more autonomous vehicles on the road, whether we like it or not. It's just the reality, and we have to face it. And if we pay attention to it and not deny it, not stick our head in the sand, we'll see the opportunities. But I remember the reaction. Almost every call was somebody telling me why this wasn't going to work. And I would debate and argue, and it's not because I want to defend this technology. Ultimately, this technology would put me out of business. Our company exists for one reason and one reason only. We exist to serve people who drive trucks. I don't want to see this technology. I don't talk about it because I'm promoting it. I talk about it because I have to decide what I'm going to do for a future for my business if there's going to be fewer and fewer truck drivers every year. Now, I'm not worried because we have a long time. There's still going to be human truck drivers for a long time. But we should pay attention to this. One of the things that people came up with, it really just shows how much of a knee-jerk reaction a lot of this was, and people weren't thinking it through. I remember this one over and over and over. Well, who's going to fuel the truck? Do we really think that something that simple would stop this from happening? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? People just freaked out, and they came up with all these reasons why it wouldn't work. But none of those reasons were legitimate. I heard, that autonomous truck will never be able to do what I do because it's too complicated. What you do is more complicated than what a pilot of a 747 does? Or the space shuttle? Or all of the drones we have flying around the world? Really? What you do is more complicated than that? I don't think it is. What you do every day, we can recreate. I don't care how difficult the dock you back into is. If the truck and the trailer physically fit in that space and can get to the dock, well, then we can program a computer to do it. And once you program it, it will do it virtually perfect every time. So I'm not promoting these, but we have to open our eyes and realize those little problems that we thought were a big deal just aren't. And here's an article, the reason I'm talking about this. Here's the headline. Pilot, the truck stop chain, working to bring autonomous truck services to truck stops. This is exactly what I said would happen. Instead of having every truck driver responsible for fueling each individual truck that they drive, remember when we used to have gas stations full service? That's all that's going to happen. You will have fuel lanes with one person as an attendant now who could fuel 100 trucks a day or whatever the number works out to be. The same with inspecting these trucks. And so that's exactly what Pilot is working on right now. They're working with a company called Kodiak. Pilot and Kodiak are in the process of creating an autonomous truck port in the Atlanta area. This is a real thing. They're already building it to evaluate potential service offerings, including spaces to pick up and drop off autonomous trucking loads, conduct inspections, maintain and refuel trucks. And they're going to be doing some stuff with data transfer that really doesn't matter much to us. It's stuff in the background. But this is how this is going to work. You can identify a problem, somebody will come up with a solution, and we'll have a new company. The good side to technology like this, even though I don't want to see it happen, it does create a lot of new jobs and new companies that didn't exist before. So that whole idea that, this will never work because of all these reasons we came up with, I argued it then. You can see it happening now. None of those problems we brought up are going to be real problems. One of the other things I just saw some news on, I remember people said, it's going to be way too expensive, this technology. And I said, no, it's not. In fact, the price of the truck will eventually come down because of all the components you don't need to build for a human. You don't need a cab in a truck that drives itself, which means you don't need seats and upholstery and sleepers and heaters and air conditioners and radios and switches and on and on and on. All that stuff goes away. The cost savings could be incredible at some point. The technology that allows the vehicle to drive itself is just not that expensive. Now, when Tesla brought out their first kind of self-driving mode. It was about $4,000. I said, that's really, really cheap. I think now it's $15,000. If you want Tesla's full driving mode, autonomous mode, I think it's a $15,000 option now. That is still pennies. When you think of all the stuff that can go away on a truck when you don't have a human anymore, there's more than $15,000 in savings there, and you're replacing a human that gets paid $60,000 to $100,000 a year. If fleets keep trucks for 4 years, there's huge savings there. So, again, I'm not promoting this stuff. But don't get it in your head that there are all these reasons it's not going to happen. It's happening, and it's going to continue to happen. All right, speaking of continuing to happen, the phones are starting to light up. So I think I'm going to take some calls. I have a ton of other topics. They're kind of stuff that's been hanging around for a while. If I get to it, I'll get to it. If not, we'll just talk to you for a while. Let's get started in Wisconsin today. Tim, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin, how you doing today?
Doing good. What's on your mind?
Haven't talked to you in a while, but the other day you were talking about that Open Bears site, and very, very interesting. I went through it, spent a lot of time on it, and just unbelievable information. But what I really found really intriguing, and you probably looked at this, although you didn't mention it. So they break down, vaccination issues since the 1990s. And if you go back and look at the age group from a half-year-old to 17-year-old, and then go back and look at reactions from 1990 to today, the numbers are unbelievably high. Did you look at that?
Not specifically that age group over that time period, I don't think. Are you saying there was a lot of reactions in that age group all these years? Yeah, go look at it. It'll blow your mind. And what really jumped out at me is you look at the incidence of autism. For years they've been trying to say that vaccinations may have a link to autism. Right. Those things, I don't know that you can prove it. But go back and look at that information. Now, that's government information submitted by doctors. The information doesn't lie. It's right there. I know. That's and how, forget that one age group that you're able to pull out. I want to go look at that and see that data. But if you just look at the overall chart, it's incredible that you can go for decades skimming along the bottom and even have multiple years where the numbers go down. And then all of a sudden it just shoots up through the roof and nobody's even addressing it. Right, but what's important about that age group, Kevin, is that's the age group that gets all the vaccination. Yeah, that's a good point. Right. You're right. Yeah. So maybe all of our vaccines cause more problems than we realize. Of course they do. Of course. And here's the thing. Back when you and I were getting vaccinations, did they give you 8 or 10 of them at a whack? No, that's true. You're right. So, yeah, now they give you like a big cluster, and you just look at the numbers of autism going back to 1970 to what it is today. How many cases per 1,000 there are? The number is outstanding. It really is. And whether you can prove it's vaccines or not, why isn't somebody trying to prove why it's happening? If you think it's not vaccines, then tell us what else changed. And we could say the diet, and there are other things. So, but why are we just ignoring it? Sure. Yeah, but that age group, the numbers, they're astronomical. You look at it and you're like, holy cow. And no one has I've never heard that
ever brought up, ever.
No, you're right. I haven't either. I didn't realize that, and I missed that data. You must have to sort it just the right way to see that, and I never thought about it, but it makes total sense. How many 50-year-olds are still getting vaccinated for stuff?
Yeah, I mean, the COVID stuff is interesting, and, but you go back from 1990 when they started that. At that age group, you look at the numbers; it's astronomical numbers. It's just crazy.
Yeah, and like I said, when you bring the funny thing about this makes me insane. When you bring it up, they say, "Well, the data's not accurate." Well, then why do we have the damn program? Fix it then.
Right. Right. And then if you consider, what do they consider? Is there 1% reporting? Maybe?
I have heard people, and I agree with this, the highest estimate I think you could say is maybe 10% of stuff gets reported, but I have a feeling your 1% might be closer.
Right. So maybe during COVID. So maybe.
Walk around and ask people on the street if they know what VAERS is, and you'll get, nothing but the deer in the headlights look. But go further than that. Ask your doctor. Ask your doctor if he knows what VAERS is, and then ask him if he's ever submitted a report.
The last 2 or 3 days, I've told people about that. Now, people that study and know, and they, like you said, they look at you like, VAERS, what is that? What's that?
Well, here's something else. A lot more people know about VAERS today than they did 2 or 3 years ago, but it's still not very many.
Yep. I had a good friend of mine whose sister, she had some health issues, had a heart attack. She was vaccinated and boosted, had a heart attack. They talked her into doing triple bypass. They get her on the table. They go, got to do quadruple bypass. Okay, surgery was on a Monday. Tuesday morning, they have her up in the chair. Tuesday night, she has a heart attack, never leaves the hospital and died.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Unbelievable.
So, and again, you can't prove that, the vaccination had any...
Well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. If we wanted to prove it, we could?
Well, we could. You're right, but no one wants to prove it.
Exactly. They want to hide it. It's the opposite. I absolutely believe now they're hiding this. Because I talk about the reports that I see of these young athletes, young celebrities, the numbers seem to be through the roof. I never have read so many news reports like this. But since I started talking about it, now people send them to me. And I'm like, how can I miss all these? I'm all over this. I look for them almost every day, and yet I can't find them all. Steve, who calls quite a bit, called the other day about some, sent me 2 more this morning. Stuff that I hadn't even found. 2 more young, healthy athletes dying and no explanation.
Yeah, Kevin, listen to this. You're gonna laugh when you hear this. So back Memorial Day, I got sick. My wife got sick. I didn't get tested. She works in the school district, so she had to get tested. So she goes in. They do a test in the clinic. They do a strep screening in the clinic. Do you know what the bill was?
I don't even want to guess. How much?
The bill was $850.
It is highly possible that we can throw all the black helicopter theories out about all of this and just say it was nothing but a big money grab.
$850 to go have a doctor test you for COVID, test you for... Now, that was no meds. That was 10 minutes in the office.
I know.
$850.
And we know the COVID test wasn't even very accurate.
Yeah, just hysterical. Just hysterical. One last thing, change gears to go along with your autonomous thing. Here in my state, say Green Bay area, they are running anti-Elon Musk commercials about the technology of his autonomous vehicles being dangerous. They're running them as campaign ads, believe it or not.
So I'm having a hard time believing it because this is so ironic. When we look at the left and their Green New Deal and everything they want to see happen, Elon Musk should be like a god to them, shouldn't he?
And what's funny, Kevin, there's a guy that comes out and says, I'm a transportation specialist.
No, what the hell is that?
Says.
Yeah, what the hell is that?
And I looked at the technology, and his technology for autonomous is very dangerous. And then what they show is supposedly some autonomous vehicle hitting like a dummy, a crash dummy. I'm not kidding you. They're airing those commercials where they live.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable that it's so confusing anymore. You know, Elon Musk, just because he came out and said, look, the Democrat, he's a Democrat. He always has been. Come on. But he came out and said, they've gotten so ridiculous. I can't support this. So he actually started showing some support for Republicans, and the left immediately wants to cut him off at the knees.
I thought I was getting punked. I thought someone put something on TV. I'm looking around like, oh, come on, you got to be kidding. And I swear to you, and it aired on Fox News. It was a commercial that aired on Fox News channel.
I may be wrong about this because it's certainly not any area that I study a lot, but I don't think you can turn down political ads.
No, you can't.
Yeah,
but
I didn't think so.
So I'm like, was someone pulling a prank? And then all of a sudden Fox News, and I'm like, I can't believe what I just seen.
Well,
the so-called safety specialist, unbelievable.
Why don't they ever mention how many people human drivers killed yesterday?
Yeah, well, you already know where that's going to go, right? The first people that get killed, I mean, there's what? Now, all total on the roads, close to 40,000 people killed in road accidents every year.
It's insane, yeah. The number's crazy. And I promise, when we move to autonomous technology, that number is going to improve so much. It will be insane, but nobody talks about that. Now, I'm not saying we should ignore the safety issue and let these companies do whatever the hell they want. Of course not. But all you have to do is think this through logically. Human beings have been driving vehicles for 100+ years. We're not getting any better at it. We're getting worse. We kill more people now than ever, even though our vehicles are about 20 times safer at protecting life than they were just 30 years ago. We're killing and maiming more people every year. We just had one of the worst years ever for road safety. We're getting worse.
Yep.
We need a solution, and the solution is autonomous vehicles will be far safer. Let's just get that out there. There's no doubt about it.
Well, don't you think that they came out with autonomous, well, not true autonomous, but all these aids for traffic and lane departure because people are distracted when they're driving. That's why they came out with it.
I wish somebody would dig through the data and tell us how many accidents have been avoided just by automatic braking. I'll bet the number's pretty damn big.
Oh, huge. Yeah, but the first accident when someone gets killed, it's going to be front page news.
It already has been. It already has been. I remember the first Tesla that, pulled out in front of a truck because the truck was the same color as the sky or something, and his camera missed it, and somebody got killed. They talked about it for months. One person. 86 people died yesterday from human drivers. Yeah.
Yeah, the number I think is I looked it up it's like close to 40,000, 35,000, 38,000, somewhere in that neighborhood every year, road accidents.
Yeah, exactly. We know the deaths. We don't even start to add up all the injuries, that it's and like I said, after 100 years of driving vehicles, there's no chance we're getting better as humans. We got worse because of all the distractions and everything else going on. So if we haven't figured out how to stop humans from killing each other with vehicles after 100 years, we're not going to.
No. Hey, one last thing. Going back to the diet stuff, and then with that stuff on the VAERS report, you think there could be a correlation to all this obesity and all these young people? Obviously, it's food related, but also, inflammation in the body from all these vaccinations. You think there's a correlation for that?
All of this stuff correlates. Everything we've done around health, nutrition, food, medicine, all of it has an impact on this. When we're talking about autism, we talked about autism. We could also throw in things like ADHD. If you compare the numbers in the U.S. to a country like France, and France is still a first world country, all the technology and everything we have, you can't believe how different the numbers are. France has almost none of this. They have very low rates of autism in kids. They have very low rates of ADHD. They're not putting their kids on methamphetamines, which is what we used to give kids with ADHD, by the way. Meth. That's still meth was a pharmaceutical drug first, not a street drug. It was a pharmaceutical drug, and we gave it to 8-year-olds because they couldn't sit still in school, and we wonder why those children are drug addicts today. But in France, they don't do that, and one of the big differences is, and it's getting worse every year, even in France, but they still hold on to a lot of their old traditions around food. They tend to eat very local, real food. They tend to take 2 hours for lunch, and it's a very relaxing. They have a whole different approach to food, and you look at that, and then you look at the stark differences in children's health.
There was a few years ago, there was that documentary called The Magic Pill. Do you remember hearing about that?
Oh, yeah. It was a great documentary.
Yeah. Well, what used to be on Netflix, and then all of a sudden it got pulled. You can't find it anywhere.
Yeah.
But in that documentary, if you remember, they had 2 very autistic children, nonverbal, right?
Yeah.
And what did they do? They put those children on a very strict ketogenic diet, and what happened? They improved dramatically.
Yes.
Became functioning, became verbal. Now, they weren't fixed perfect, but they made 100% improvement.
Yep.
And I've talked to people that have autistic kids, and they look at me like I'm insane. Like, let's look at their diet. We want to make our kids happy. Look, we want to make them happy. We give them what they want. Well, that's why that's not helping them.
Exactly. It's
and go find that movie on Netflix. It's gone. They pulled it. It's gone.
Well, speaking of which, along those same lines, since I had a bunch of odds and ends today, at some point I'm going to have to rant about the whole student loan debt thing. It makes me insane. I've been following politics for a long time. Nothing makes me as crazy as this issue right now. I feel like I'm going to lose my mind over this. It may be, and I know people will think that maybe I've lost my mind over this, but this may be the single worst political decision I have seen in my lifetime.
Well, I think they realize that they're losing a certain demographic, and they're trying to buy that vote. That's what they're trying to do.
And it is incredible how much damage this is going to do to our country. It is so wrong in so many ways. But here's why I brought it up. Already, if you mention this on Facebook, your post will be deleted. You cannot question this on Facebook. They're deleting posts already about this.
Well, we already know that the Biden administration has, contacted all
Direct
the
ties.
social media places.
Yep, they have direct contact.
So we already,
yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see what's, first off, the student loan thing. He can do what he wants, but it ain't going to stand the legal challenge.
It's
already.
Well, it's kind of
Already
funny.
today, there's a group. Hi, Kevin.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a clip out there, and it's recent, where Nancy Pelosi goes through a whole thing claiming the president absolutely cannot do this without Congress. He can pause the payments.
Right.
He can postpone the payments. He does not. This is Pelosi. I don't know. I'm not a constitutional lawyer. But Pelosi claims he cannot do this without Congress. Okay, let's see what happens then.
Yesterday, he can do it, but what's going to happen? Yesterday, attorney generals from all the different states are going to form an organization and file a class if he goes forward and does this. And then, it'll be a court battle, but it can't. He doesn't have the authority to do that. I mean, he just doesn't have that authority.
Here's the crazy thing about this administration. They just absolutely ignore laws. They could care less. They even come out and admit, we know this isn't constitutional. We're going to do it anyway.
Right. That's what's so dangerous about it, is because, if you get in front of the right court, if at somewhere down the road you change the Supreme Court, the demographics of that, then anything can happen. That's unfortunate, but
that's where we are.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Hey, got to cut you loose. Phones are piling up on me. We're going to get to the calls. Let's go to Minnesota. John, welcome to the program.
Hi, Kevin. You haven't gotten all the way through the end of the world as you know it, but your autonomous talk this morning made me start thinking about what you had said about there being a shortage of people.
Yeah.
Of, young people. That could be the United States way of getting around that. Is doing the autonomous
the whole world
and technology to fill in this shortage of people.
I know this is a more simple example, but I see an awful lot of people who complain about self-checkout lanes in stores. Well, that's the same thing.
Yep.
They're doing that because, one, people are expensive, and two, they're almost impossible to find now.
Yes. So that was my thought that I had when you were talking, and
no, you are on the right track. That is what will drive the autonomous revolution, is the fact that people are harder and harder to find and more expensive to hire. Let's go to Wisconsin. Jim, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Kevin. Two quick things. The HRV has been released. I sent you an email with all the fixes.
Good.
Live as of this morning on all the phones. Yesterday, I tried calling about 7 times, got dropped. On the stress protocol, the blankets. I've been doing everything else. I tried to bring the blanket in the truck with me, and the inverter keeps kicking out. I don't know. You said you were designing one with another company.
We are, and that's one of the biggest problems we're facing, is that the reason we're designing a new one is because we want more power. We want more powerful lights so you don't have to do it as long. We want a more powerful infrared generator. And so the struggle now is for us to try to, there's no way we're going to be able to get away with less of an inverter. I'm hoping that we don't need a bigger inverter. I mean, right now to run the blanket, I think minimum you're probably going to need a 2,500 watt inverter.
Yeah, it doesn't work on two. So, you're probably right. 2,500 would be minimum.
Yeah, I've run it off my Goal Zero for the full hour. And the battery, I have the Yeti 3000. So it's 3,000 amp hours. The battery will last for the full hour running that, which I was worried because that's a lot of power. And you have to generate that kind of heat and, infrared. It requires a lot of power. There's just no way around that.
So you were talking about the body battery. Since I've been I do everything, and then maybe twice a month I do the blanket when I get home. But my body battery has been over 70 the last week and a half since I've been doing the whole stress thing.
Excellent. I was playing around with the data yesterday on the Garmin watch, the HRV data, and digging deeper into it. And it's interesting. I've learned something new again. I'm so grateful for our partnership with Garmin. The way they're displaying their raw HRV data, and I can get HRV data on my Aura. I can get it on other devices I have. But I've never seen anybody display it like this. Everything I've read just basically says you just want your HRV number to be as high as we can get it. The higher your HRV number is, the healthier you are. Except that's not exactly correct. So I'll use myself as an example. What the Garmin is doing is calculating a running 7-day average and then creating a range. So, for example, based on my 7-day average, my 7-day average was like 48. So my range was like 44 to 56 or something along those lines. It gave you a range. If you go out of that range, even on the high side, if I were to all of a sudden have a reading of 75, that's not a good thing. It's not, you don't just want the number high, and this is why you also don't really compare this number to anybody else. The Garmin watch wants you to stay in that range. If you come out of that range on the high side, it's going to say you're unbalanced and your HRV is too high. I dropped below my range the last couple of days, and I mentioned that I did those 3 long days in the garden. I'm still trying to recover from that. That dropped my HRV, and it took me out of the range, and I became unbalanced. And now that, I've had a couple days where I've been doing the routine, I haven't been pushing too hard in the garden, and my 7-day average is coming back up. But that average comes up slowly because it's an average. But it's interesting now that we don't just want the highest number we can get. What we do want over time, we want our 7-day average to keep coming up. So at some point, I want to be where my range is between 70 and 80, not 40 and 50. But no matter what, I always want to stay in that range. That's something new.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to call next week. It will be 7 days.
Yeah, it will develop an average for you. And then once you've got that rolling 7-day average, then you can always see whether you're in the range. It would be interesting to see what would take us too high. I don't really know what might cause an HRV to spike on the high side. There's all kinds of things that will cause your HRV to drop. I'll tell you the big one, and it's sad, and we've proven this so many ways now. One of the worst things you can do to your HRV is alcohol. It will destroy it. It's sad how
you mentioned that. Yeah,
one serving of alcohol will drop your HRV. It's just the more I know about alcohol, the more I think we should just not consume it as human beings. But it's not going away, obviously.
Yeah, I don't have that problem. I don't drink, so.
Yeah, well, good.
thing.
It's a really, really good thing. And you know what? I'm seeing a big push. I'm seeing a bunch of ads on TV now from the Ad Council, and they're, and I think a big part of it was during the pandemic. I think a lot of people drank more than ever, and I think some people started drinking, and now I think they're seeing it as a problem, and it's a bigger problem than what we know. This causes far more health issues than I ever thought. I mean, hell, they've been trying to convince us for decades that a little bit of alcohol is healthy for us. That's an absolute lie.
Right.
Absolute lie.
Red wine.
Nothing. Yeah, forget red wine. They think because you're going to get some resveratrol from the red wine that makes it all worth it. Except all the studies show you need about 30 times more resveratrol than you get from red wine to have any impact at all. And if you want resveratrol, go eat some red grapes. There's more of it in there anyway. Alcohol is just a toxin. Really is. Now, I'm not saying I will never touch alcohol again. I like wine. I'm not buying any. I haven't been drinking any for months. If somebody showed up at my house and they had a bottle of wine, I'd probably have a glass. But it's going to have to be fairly special, and I'm not going to do it very often.
So I got one last thing. You and Lauren were talking about the receptor restart kit or something.
We have a supplement that is a receptor detox. So what we have found with hormones, we're talking about trying to get hormones in balance, and stress, when we use the word stress, what we're really describing is several of our hormones have gotten out of balance. Because that's what stress is all about. When we experience something that stresses our body, and we now know that is just as much physical as it is mental. Heat stresses your body, cold stresses your body, resistance stresses your body. What we're really saying is that this is just a different set of chemicals that end up flooding our body when we're under stress. And those chemicals need a receptor to lock onto to do what it is they do. We are blocking those receptors. Our diet is so poor and so dirty. There are other compounds that can lock onto a receptor like that and then block the chemical we want on that receptor. So we now know, and this is new science, this is one of the reasons why we've struggled with balancing hormones, is if we don't clear out those receptors, nothing you do is going to work. So there is a supplement that we've got in the store, and it's receptor detox.
And we should take that?
If you are having a stress problem, and almost everybody is today, then that's a good that's a good first place to start, because there's a good chance all of us have some, detoxing we need to do around these receptors first. So here's what I'm completely convinced of, and we just have to prove this. I am completely convinced, and this problem is worse with women than it is with men, but men, I still see a lot of people that would improve if we could fix this. But here's what I'm completely convinced about finally. When somebody came to me before and their hormones were just way out of whack, and we've tried just about everything. We've had very, very little success. I've even said I know practitioners who have spent their whole career working on bioidentical hormone therapy. I don't even see them get good, consistent results. I'm convinced now that I think we solved this. Give me the worst case scenario of a hormone imbalance. First off, they have to eat the right diet. And the, lower carbon, higher quality that is, the better it's going to work. We need to kind of clean off the receptors with the receptor detox. We add the L-Reuteri yogurt, which seems to be awesome at really balancing and increasing hormone levels, testosterone and oxytocin. And we do we could also throw in the male and female enhancement, which is just the organ meats in capsules, and then the protocol, the stress protocol. I am fully convinced that will fix this for anybody.
Okay. All right. I'll have to order some of that stuff. And I tell you, I swear by that Cardio Miracle.
That is becoming by far our number one product. I am really, I'm just going to recommend it as a daily supplement now. At first we were saying, look, if you have high blood pressure, if you have other cardiac issues, you got to start this stuff. It's amazing. Now I'm just saying for overall health. You should be doing 2 scoops every day. It's a habit for me now. I never miss it. And I am sold.
Oh, yeah. Is that on automatic reorder?
Can you do a subscription in our store on that? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
That's a good question. I'm not sure. Angie, can you check on that for me? I am so bad at stuff like that. How much things cost. I try not to clutter up my mind with things I can go look up when I need to. But we'll get an answer for you. I'm just not sure right now.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm going to log in today and order a bunch of stuff. So that's all I got.
All right. That's all I need. Thanks for the call. Great stuff. Let's go to Florida this time. Raymond, welcome to the program.
Hello, Kevin.
What's on your mind today?
I got a couple of comments. I'm gonna talk about the autonomous thing here in a minute. Got a couple of comments first.
Sure.
To the guy that was buying the 4 eggs at Pilot for $3, eggs are not have to be refrigerated. You can keep a dozen in the truck for 38 cents.
Yeah.
For almost a week in the fall and winter time, right? But
yeah, if you can find, natural local eggs that aren't washed, you can keep them for a long time without refrigeration.
Well, I boil them, so that's washing, right? Boiling is the same thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, once they're
boiled, that coating is gone.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then you do have a limited amount of time. But in many, many parts of the world, they never refrigerate eggs. When I was in Costa Rica, I was shocked. I actually walked into a Walmart. I wanted to see what a Walmart would be like in Costa Rica. And it's quite a different experience. First off, in Costa Rica, when you pull into the parking lot of the Walmart, they're, one of those, they're almost like a crane kind of setup. They're on a trailer, but it's like a little mobile, almost security center they put it way up in the air kind of thing. There's one of those right in the middle of the parking lot. And there are, police officers with AR-15s. And I mean, it's just crazy. And there's very little violent crime in Costa Rica. You don't have to worry about getting, beat up or murdered much, but they will steal everything and anything. You're parked at an intersection waiting on a traffic light, and if your window is open, they will reach in and steal the glasses right off your face. Or anything else they can reach in the car if your windows are down. But then the other weird thing, I walked into the Walmart, and there are giant displays of eggs out in the middle of the floor. None of the eggs are refrigerated.
Yeah. That's interesting. One of my friends from high school just returned from Costa Rica, and he was talking about how the poverty level over there, right? I mean, it's like it's third world country, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole different way of life. But here's the interesting thing. Most years for decades now, Costa Rica always scores in the top 3 usually for the happiest people on the planet.
That's what I didn't get to converse with him as much as I wanted to. I was going to say, do you think those people aren't happier than we are over here busting our ass?
They're way happier.
Trying to succeed or whatever.
They are way happier.
They are.
They have the kind of the national saying is, and I may butcher this, but it's like pura vida, I think, and it means pure life. That like their national saying, and they're really, really happy people. When you drive around the country, it looks like abject poverty. It really does. It's a poor country. It's a very poor country. The people are really, really happy there.
Yeah. Okay, moving right along, the collusion thing. One time you were talking about the difference between competition and collusion.
Yes.
If you want to see collusion, look at the 3 major truck stops: Pilot, Flying J, Love's, and TA Petro. That is collusion times 10 right there.
Well, wait a minute. Wait.
Still got the price up near five. They got the price up near $5 in Georgia still yet. QT is down to $4.29, 80 cents cheaper.
Okay, so then that doesn't qualify as collusion because they can't control the market.
Don't you think that they call each other every morning and decide what the price is going to charge?
Wait a minute. If they're doing that, there would be records of that, and they could be prosecuted for that.
Oh, we need Teddy Roosevelt back for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that is if that is really happening, that would not be hard to prove at all, and they could be heavily prosecuted for that. Look, it's
not hard to see to me, really. I don't know how to prove it, but you can see it. You can see it.
Well, wait a minute. This does not have to be collusion, and again, they have a different strategy, because if this is collusion, it's not going to work because there's too many independents that will just underprice them. It's already happening. But it doesn't have to be collusion. If I'm the manager of the Pilot, and I don't know who gets to set the pricing at Pilots, but whoever it is, all you have to do is drive down the street and look to see what the other truck stops. And if there's 2 truck stops charging more, all I have to do is undercut them by a penny or 2. So I don't believe that this is true collusion. I don't, anyway.
Well, whatever. But anyway, we would agree to disagree there.
Yeah.
What Pilot drive? A lot of these guys think more of their pilot points than they do saving money. I think. I don't know.
Oh, well, that could be.
I can't understand why Pilot's so crowded all the time. I don't know, man.
Well, one of the things you have to...
the same way, pretty much. Overcrowding.
One of the things you have to remember is if I'm a company driver and I'm not the one paying for fuel, I could care less what fuel costs. I'm going to go to the truck stop that I like the most, that has the most services or whatever it might be. And most trucking companies don't really dictate where people have to fuel.
Okay, on to the self-driving or the autonomous driving. Did you say that you had a collision mitigation system as early as 01 or something way back there?
01. I had let me go back and make sure I'm not confusing I had 2 trucks like this. I had an 01 and an 05. But the 01 would have been a Volvo. And I had the Eaton VORAD system. So it had a front-looking radar and it had a right-side-looking radar. And it was tied into a system called Smart Cruise. And the way it worked was if I set my cruise at 60, but I came up on traffic that was only doing 55, I didn't have to touch anything. The truck would slow down to whatever speed the traffic was traveling and maintain the proper distance. Now, this truck also had an auto shift. a 2-pedal auto shift. It would downshift on its own if it needed to. It would apply the Jake brake if it needed to. And then if traffic sped back up to, say, 65 and my cruise was set at 60 and we had gone down to 55, traffic speeds up, my truck will go back up to the set speed of 60 and maintain it. It was a pretty incredible system, and it worked really well. I had none of those weird, oh my God, the bridges are always setting it off. I had none of those problems. It just worked really well back in '01.
The first one of those I experienced was a 2016 Kenworth. And I hated that thing, buddy. I hated it.
I keep hearing that. How did we screw up this technology so bad when I thought it was pretty darn good back in '01?
Well, if I got within 400 yards of the truck, the damn thing started beeping. Yeah, I see the truck, okay, whatever, but anyway.
Now, I will say almost everybody who drove that truck complained about the warnings, and my answer to them was, we can complain all day, but I went back and looked at the settings and the stats, and when that thing is going off, you are in a higher danger of having a collision. That's all it's telling us. You are to the point now, you're close enough that if something distracted you for a second and you looked away and traffic stopped, you'd run into them.
Exactly. Yeah, I understand that, yeah. But the autonomous, I'm all for it, man. I'm tired of spending sleepless nights out here. You know, hell, I really... I mean,
yeah.
Come on, bring it on.
Well,
I want to be a catcher. I call them catchers. You're going to have catchers, man. You have to have people to fuel and inspect the trucks.
Yeah, well,
at certain locations.
You know, here's the thing. If you told me right now today, you can go back to truck driving and you can have a fully autonomous truck, but for whatever reason, we want a driver in there the whole time, I'd take that as a job over driving. Look at all I could accomplish while I'm driving down or riding down the road making money. Hell, I could be running a whole nother business back there in my sleeper. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, give me.
You call them crap.
By the way, give me 2 more of those trucks that can platoon behind me.
Yeah. You call them guys crash dummies one time, it might be the smartest guys on earth, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Honestly, even now, the technology is still pretty early. There's still some issues with it, there's no doubt. But I don't think it would be too hard of a choice for me whether I would feel safer riding in the sleeper of an autonomous truck or one with a human driver.
I probably trust the autonomous. Yeah, don't get distracted.
Exactly. It doesn't get tired. It doesn't get angry. It doesn't get a bad attitude. It's not watching YouTube videos while it's driving down the road. Yeah. Oh, man.
Oh, Lord. And, you know, back in 2019, when I came back into the industry, I joined a little company in California. I'm not calling any names or anything, but I tried. He was a 30-year-old Californian who was really all up into technology as far as emailing and all this stuff that we do, you know, as far as paperwork.
Yeah.
I tried every way in the world to talk him into getting the ground floor of this autonomous thing. I said, man, we'll be the first company to run a truck from L.A. to Miami. I'll be in Miami waiting for it to catch it. he wouldn't come. His argument was, well, what about the insurance claims and all this shit when they run over somebody? Well, I don't. There's a hell of a lot more chance of me running over somebody than there's one of them.
And here's the other thing. This is, again, why people, I don't understand this thinking. Do they really believe that, look around the world, there are so many companies right now building and investing in this technology. There is ungodly amounts of money being spent on this. Do they really believe that at some point we're going to get to a place and go, oh, hey, wait, sorry, guys, none of this is going to work because insurance can't figure it out? Hell no, that's never going to happen. Give me a break. Come on.
What's the Chinese company?
Too Simple.
That's just Too Simple. That's what scares the hell out of me.
Oh, no doubt. They are by far.
I don't think we need a Chinese owning all of our trucks.
We don't need Chinese moving all of our freight over here in this country with autonomous trucks, but that's exactly what happened. Too Simple has moved more freight with autonomous vehicles, I think, than any other company in our country.
Yeah.
All right. Good stuff. We're going to move on. We're heading off to Iowa this time. John, welcome to the program.
Good day, Kevin. Hope everything's going good for you. Hey, I have a theory on the IRS agents that they want to hire.
All right. Hit us with it.
And it's just my thoughts, my theory. I got no science to back it up. But think about the AB5 and the gig economy. Could that be what they're going after?
I think that's a big part of it, yes. I think you are exactly right.
Because think about in the last 3 years, how much money the government has lost in taxes from the gig economy, the DoorDash, the Ubers.
No doubt.
Because a lot of those people are not paying taxes on that money, but they had a whole heck of a lot of money coming in from it.
And it is much easier to cheat your taxes when you're self-employed. I absolutely get that.
Exactly.
I agree. I mean, it's so easy. All you have to do is make up a bunch of numbers for your expenses. That's as easy as it gets. Yep. If you want to cheat when you're self-employed, and I'll even say this, the odds of you getting caught up until now have been extremely low. The number of audits is like 1%, but that's changing. And I think you're right. I think the government has figured out that all of these small businesses and self-employed people, and now the gig economy, which makes somebody self-employed in 30 seconds if they want to be, I think they're going to go after those people.
Because I ran the math. You know, what are they wanting? 87,000 new.
Yeah.
That's approximately 1,700 to 1,740 people per state. But you got states that you're not going to run. You know, Montana, Wyoming. Smaller states with a lower population. You're not going to need them, but you can move them to California.
Yeah, no doubt.
You can move them to Florida.
No doubt.
You can move them to Chicago.
Yep.
You can move them to the Northwest. And oversaturate the amount of agents you have and do even more checking. Because I don't know, can the IRS go to, say, Uber, Lyft, Instacart, and say, hey, we want to see the records of how much you paid out and how much you paid out to each person?
Well, they don't need to go to them. They already know that. All of those companies issue 1099s.
Okay. Yeah. I have no experience with it. It's just a thought that while driving down the road of.
Let me tell you how this
might be
works.
Why they're wanting all this.
That is the one way you're not going to cheat, is to try to say you didn't make all that money. The 1099's been issued. This doesn't even require a human being. The computers at the IRS, one of the first things it checks. You've got a Schedule C, which means there's 1099 revenue here. If your revenue on that tax return is not at least as much as the 1099s that were reported, that is an instant audit. Doesn't even require a human.
Okay. But it doesn't take a human to initiate or follow up?
Nope. No, it automatically generates a letter, and you get a letter, and it's now your responsibility to prove why you had 1099s that added up to this much, but you only reported this much. It's automatic. The letter goes out, and now you either have to pay the difference in tax or you have to prove it. Now, here's something that a lot of people don't realize, and I am sure if the IRS doesn't already have this program, they are working on it. For decades, there have been very special programs in certain industries where they train agents to only audit within a certain industry. And they get really good at figuring out if you're cheating on your expenses or not. And here's one of the ways they do this. They tend to focus a lot on businesses that might operate with cash, but there is a special division in the IRS that audits trucking companies. And all of those agents are trained in the kinds of numbers you should see in a trucking company. But in some cases, they go much further. This one always made me insane. Pizza shops deal a lot in cash. And they came up with a way to audit pizza shops based on their ordering. So they actually went in and they had calculations. If you ordered this much flour, this much tomato sauce, this many pepperoni slices, we can then assume that you were able to make 325 pizzas. And if you sold 325 pizzas, this would be your revenue.
I think I remember you talking about this one other time, or somebody else I listened to. Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah, well, here's the problem. What if I'm just really inefficient? What if I don't know how to run this business very well, and I order too much, and I have waste and overrun all the time, which is common in restaurants, or I make too many pizzas, and I don't sell them, and I end up throwing them away at the end of the day?
True.
You're still going to assume I made a certain amount of income and you're going to tax me on that? But that's what they do.
Yeah, because they got that national AB5 style law or rule, or
it's already,
they're wanting to try to push through. So, so that could be why they're
it's passed the House.
They're hiring.
Hopefully it won't get through the Senate, but I'm not even convinced that the Republicans are going to be able to take over the House or the Senate this time. That's starting to look really shaky now, and that's kind of scary. But I promise you, if the IRS doesn't have a program, they're working on one where they will have specialists that understand the gig economy and know how to audit those people and know how to figure out who's cheating.
Right, and that could be why they want the agents for the auditing purposes.
That's exactly why. Look, take somebody, let's use an example that they've tried to make as an example forever. I would love to see all of the details of the IRS trying to audit somebody like Donald Trump's tax returns, or Elon Musk, or Jeff Bezos, or, they say they're going after the billionaires and the multimillionaires, but they're not. Because, look, you can't get any money out of those guys. They will tie the IRS up in court for years.
Oh, yeah. They want somebody like me, or a gig economy worker, or even say somebody is smaller like yourself.
Right.
That they know that we can't fight against them. We're just going to pay it and walk away.
And if you take 10 of the top CPAs in the country and 10 of the top IRS agents in the country, and we give them 5 tax returns from the ultra rich, you will end up with about 150 different answers.
More than likely. Because the tax code's so messed up. That's where fair tax comes in.
Exactly. It's way too complicated. Even an average tax return will trip up most people. We talk every single day about accountants who haven't gotten this stuff right for years. And when you get to some of these wildly complicated tax returns, you can just forget it. They're not auditing those people. That's not where the money's going to come from.
Correct.
The gig economy is going to be a big target. I think you're absolutely right.
And there's not enough of those individuals that make that much money to make it worth going after. Say there's a hypothetical number. There's a million of those people that make that much money, but there's 50 million that make less than that, and they can get more money off of those 50 million than they can off of that 1 million.
Well, let's just look at the current statistics. I can tell you how this is going to work. Right now, we have about 80-some thousand agents, I think. If I remember right, I think this is going to double the number of agents. So we have, let's say we have 80,000 right now. We know who they audit. The data's there. So the current 80,000, primarily, the number one group that they audit is people who make less than $75,000 a year. It's a real statistic. Right. We already know it. You can't lie to me about that. We already know that's who you're auditing. So my point is, if you don't think you should be auditing those people and you should be auditing the rich, well, take the 80,000 you already have and start auditing the rich then. Why haven't you been doing that all along? If you claim that's where all the money is, then why haven't you been doing that all these years? You haven't. So now here's what they might say. Oh, well, we're going to hire a bunch of new agents and we'll take all of our experienced agents and we'll have them go audit the rich, which means you have a bunch of new agents that are going to audit the poor and the gig economy. So what changed?
Exactly.
Except
Nothing.
now if I'm poor, I have to deal with a rookie auditor instead of somebody who actually knows what they're doing.
Yeah, and you may know more as an individual, because like yourself, that has studied the tax code, than that auditor will ever know, because they just read the book last week and graduated college and walked in, and you've been doing it for 30 years.
Trust me, every time I had to deal with the audit or the IRS and an auditor on a trucking tax return, I taught them stuff.
I believe it.
Yeah, it's a mess, and it only seems to be getting worse.
Yep, and it won't. It probably won't get any better. I mean, regardless of how the political system, I think we're broken too far.
Boy, I hate.
Go back to Jekyll Island. I haven't got back.
You're right.
I haven't got fully through it. I have a hard time. What was that? Early 1900s, late? What time frame was that?
Early 1900s.
So we've got anywhere from 70 to 100 years of broken. To fix.
Yeah, you're right.
And it was probably broken before then. It's just it got more politicized as there became more people. More people was researching it. And, now you have the advent of the internet.
Yeah.
That everybody can communicate with anybody that has the same thoughts.
I still believe that true free market capitalism and democracy is by far the best way to govern people. Unfortunately, we didn't figure out a way to keep out crony capitalism. And that's what's destroyed our democracy and our free market. And what scares me is there's an awful lot of similarities between what we're seeing right now in our society and our world and what you saw at the end of other empires that tried this, the Romans, the Greeks. This was all tried. It worked really, really well until it didn't. And I think we're at that point now in our country.
And I never thought I'd see it in my lifetime. I thought maybe it'd be my grandkids. Yeah. But it's happened so quickly, and the snowball has gotten so big, and just the last 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah. Well, think about this, and was it just good timing and politicians were able to take advantage of all the disruptions that COVID caused around the world, or was that part of the plan? What was it?
I'd have to take off my tinfoil hat that I already have on to be able to answer that question. I believe everything has been in the mix for more years than we've ever known.
That's what you kind of start to wonder.
Personally, this is just my personal opinion. 20 years from now, presidents have already been picked. I believe the presidents are picked way, way in advance.
That's a scary thought. Just is.
That's just my opinion.
Well,
I don't push it on anybody. You say what you want. Just my opinion. That's all that is. But I believe the presidents are already picked.
That's an interesting thought. If that's the case, and that's been going on for a while right now, I would assume you believe it's not new. It's been happening. Explain Donald Trump. Was that a fluke?
He was picked.
You think?
No.
Really?
It was purposefully. Look what happened once he became president. That's when a lot of the turmoil started.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
It was purposely picked and put in place for a reason. Now, he may not have known about it, but him being picked, I believe, was already.
Interesting thought.
I have a pretty thick tinfoil hat, and I don't want to go that deep with you on it because we could be here forever.
There you
because
go.
It's just my opinion. So I have nothing to back, and I don't like frequent boards, and I don't tell anybody my opinions.
Yeah,
very often.
And this is why the whole conspiracy theory stuff kind of makes me a little crazy, and I have to try to avoid it for my own sanity, because if you read enough, you start to see enough things that look like it does prove it. But then the crazy part is, well, what the hell would you do anyway? It's not like I can do anything about it.
Yeah. The duck already walks like a duck and already quacks like a duck.
What the hell am I going to do? Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
At that point, I start feeling like maybe I should just start ignoring politics, stick my head in the sand, and enjoy as much of the rest of my life as I can.
I almost wish I would have never got into politics like 5 years ago and listening. And unfortunately, Kevin, you brought me into it at the same time because,
I'm sorry.
You have a different views, and and I listen to different podcasters and whatever, and it's different. I'll listen to any theory or any angle, and if I believe it, I believe it. If I don't, I don't.
Yeah.
But I kind of, I listen to you for the health stuff, and everything else happens.
And then I have to sneak politics in every once in a while, and then it becomes a habit.
Right. Well, and then more of when the COVID started, I was maybe for that first 2 weeks of flattening the curve was about the only time frame I had any fears. After that, I was like, I'm done. This is over. I'm done.
Look, I have no problem.
2 weeks turned into 3 years.
Yeah, I have no problem going back and saying I may have been one of the loudest voices saying that first year in 2020 that the truck show in Louisville should have been canceled. I was saying it every day. And I was saying, I don't think I'm going.
I remember.
I don't think I'm going. I'm supposed to do seminars. I hope they cancel it because I don't think I'm going. And I did that because, remember, that was March of 2020. That we were that early into this. And I've said I have been following viruses and bacteria and pandemics for a couple of decades. This was like a hobby of mine. I have apps that track this kind of stuff. I watch the CDC numbers. So when this started, I can remember clearly, I'm like, wait a minute, guys, this is serious stuff. China just locked down 11 million people. This is serious. Well, I was wrong. Completely wrong. But I don't think I've been wrong on much after that.
Right. Very true. I'm going to agree. Yeah. COVID, that's another thing I don't want to take the tinfoil hat off for. But
I know.
Because it hits too hard at home because, well, I'm the only one that's not in my house, and everybody else.
That's a tough place to be.
Full. They want to get deep in it. I kind of believe it exacerbated my daughter's MS.
Oh, I don't. I know.
We believe she had it already, but we didn't know it because we didn't know the symptoms. And then now looking back 5-10 years, but I believe because it was shortly after she got her first jab or the second jab that she ended up in the emergency room and getting CAT scans and MRIs and everything, and they finally said it was that. I believe it was exacerbated, but we can't prove it. And we have a pretty holistic doctor, and he don't want to go onto it either.
Yeah, it's not a stretch to think that exacerbated it. There is tons of evidence that that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, and another one of the things I kind of keep to myself. I don't put it out there.
I know.
Other than right now, I just put it out to everybody that's listening.
Yeah.
But
no, I get it. Well, I don't know where we're going, but we're going to stay on top of it. I'm going to grab another call here. We are off to Oklahoma. Stephen, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin. Hey, I wanted to ask you about the Garmin watch, and then I also had a comment about the David Baldacci book.
Okay.
And the watch, did you say you talked to Garmin about and did you find anything out about the HRV? Because I've got the watch, and I don't have that.
No, I keep saying I'm going to talk to Garmin, and I never get it. I never get to it. I still have not called them.
Okay.
I put it on my calendar every day, and it's just been one of those weeks. But I'm pretty sure I can give you the right answer. I'm not 100%. But there is the original Instinct watch. And the Instinct model for Garmin has been around forever. But the Instinct is what they built the diesel on. So the base model of the Instinct is what they built the diesel, the trucking watch, on. The original Instinct does not have the sensors to be able to do this, I don't believe. So you either have to have the newest version of the diesel or the newest version of an Instinct, and I think it's a Generation 2, in order to be able to read that number. That's the way I think I've got this figured out. Now, there were people that had that watch, and they still weren't seeing it. And I don't know if that was they didn't update something or if Garmin was only releasing the update on a limited basis, and I just happened to get it. I don't know. But I'm pretty sure I kind of got most of it figured out. I do need to give Eric a call over there and get some of the final details. Maybe I'll just have him come on the show and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, that would be
You know
good.
what?
When I go to my app,
I'm going to do right now while we're talking, I'm going to send a message to the team. Let's get Eric from Garmin on the show. Done. Now I won't procrastinate.
already.
We'll just get him on the show.
There you go. Yeah, that will. You should have the answers.
Yes.
And the David Baldacci book. I'm like 42 years old now, and it might be sad to say, but I was never a reader or listener to books, even though I've been driving trucks for 20 years. I just started when I started with the nutritional stuff, and now I've heard you talk about David Baldacci, so I've dabbled into that. And in the past, 7-8 days, I've listened to 4 of his books, and I'm on my 5th one today. And now I know the authors seem to like to do series. So without knowing that, I ended up listening to 2 books from one series, 2 books from another series. So
okay.
So I found the website, and now I realize he's got a couple different series, and he also tells you which to 2 books that I listened to about the killers there. I'm like, man, that's ironic. I was able to pick the storylines that followed each other, and my wife's like, well, usually they tell you somewhere how to listen to the books, and then I Googled it, and so now I'm listening to 2 different series of his books, and they're phenomenal books. I do love them so far. So just for anybody that's new to listening to books or reading books, if you don't know about it, the authors seem to like to do series. Look into that so you can listen to them or read them in a good order.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up. That's a really good point. And books over the last 5 decades that I've been reading have changed quite a bit. And one of the biggest changes is they now tend to break books up into series and not write big, long books like they used to sometimes before. And it's a money thing. If you have 1,000 pages of a story and you try to sell it as a 1,000-page book, you're going to make a lot less money than if you break that book into 3 parts and sell 3 separate books in a series. So that is a really, really common theme now, is that many authors write in series. The good news, and David Baldacci is excellent at this, you could not know that. You could read all of his books at random. You'll still enjoy them. They're their own story in and of itself, but you enjoy them even more if you start at the beginning of a series and read it all the way through. It really tells a really good story when you do that. The other thing that I like about this, one of my other favorite authors that I've been reading for decades, and he's got so many books, Michael Connelly. Michael Connelly writes about basically crime and police and law around L.A., and he's been doing it for decades. The movie The Lincoln Lawyer, Matthew McConaughey. The Lincoln Lawyer is a Michael Connelly book. The Lincoln Lawyer is a Michael Connelly character. And his other character, Hieronymus Bosch, is a detective in L.A. And my God, he's got so many books that are, Hieronymus Bosch books. But it's the cool thing about this, and I think they're bringing it back. I've said for years, you get excited when you read a book and then they make it into a movie. And I'm disappointed every time. The movies just suck. They always do, because you can't cram a 400-page book into a 90-minute movie. It just doesn't work. And what they did, Amazon Prime has a series of Bosch. So what they do is they take one book and they make it an entire season. So you might get 12 episodes, and they're able to tell the story the way it was told in the book. And it's so much better. So I think we may see more of that, where they take these authors that have these series and they turn a whole series into a season.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, no, that makes sense too. And the whole series thing, the only book I can ever recall reading in my life was The Karate Kid when I was in high school. And the only reason I remember reading that book is the chapters were so short that I would end a chapter so fast I would look forward to the next chapter. And that's kind of similar to these series.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because these series are only each book is 12 hours long. So I can listen to it in one day of driving. So I'm moving through them at a pretty good pace right now.
Doesn't it make the day go by so fast when you get into one of those good books?
I can't believe it's been 20 years of driving. I just now, within the past 2 years, started doing. The money I'm spending. Because there's just no easy way to get these books.
No, they're not.
Whether you buy them or you do a rental program, either way, it all adds up to. But
it does.
I enjoy it more than music at this point. Like I said, just makes the day go by better. So after 75 nutritional books that I've listened to, and some of those I've listened to multiple times, I'm glad you mentioned David Baldacci, because I needed a break from those nutritional books.
Well, if you want author recommendations for novels, I've got so many. Michael Connelly is excellent. I just went back and started looking at John Grisham. Grisham was one of my favorite authors a long, long time ago. His first book was The Pelican Brief, which also made that was one of the few books that they did a really good job when they made the movie. The movie wasn't bad at all. The book was excellent. And then he wrote many, many more. They're all about lawyers and trial cases. He's a fantastic writer. And I just went back and found 6 books of his that I hadn't read, and I just binged them all. and they are fantastic. So there's two authors that will keep you busy for a long time, Michael Connelly and John Grisham.
David Baldacci, one of his first books was Absolute Power, and that's a 19-hour book, and I guess that was turned into a movie, so I don't know, it'll be interesting to watch that.
And then I just have to recommend my favorite book of all times. And when you've read thousands of books, it's sometimes hard to pick a favorite, but and it on Audible, I know I had a version, I believe that was 60 hours. 60 hours on Audible. Atlas Shrugged, my favorite book of all time.
Yeah, I've heard you mention that a lot. I'm going to have to look that up. 60 hours, that's a long time, but I'll have to try that.
And do not get, and I know there are some abridged versions out there, do not get the abridged version. Get the longest version you can find of this book and listen to it. And I promise you, after 60 hours, you're still going to be disappointed that it's ending.
Oh, huh. Yeah, I'll download that. You've mentioned it enough. I've got to download that and try it.
And it's kind of coming full circle. I heard about that book and listened to it because of a talk show host, Neil Bortz.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was the first time I had ever heard about the
out.
book Atlas Shrugged, and I listened to it way, way back then. That would have been probably the early 90s when I was listening to Neil Bortz. Neil Bortz is also, since I brought him up, he is and always has been the biggest proponent of the fair tax by far. He wrote 2 books about it.
I wish I'm 40. I'm hoping to see that sometime in my lifetime, but I doubt
awesome.
it. But it would be nice to see.
It sure would. Sure would. It would change this country in a really, really positive way.
Yeah, pay taxes on what you spend.
Exactly. Yeah. Put a little control back in people's hands. There's so many benefits to a well-written fair tax. And we have a well-written fair tax, been around for probably 30 years. We just can't get it passed. Let's go to Texas. Michael, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin, how you doing today?
Good. What can I help you with?
Yeah, just had a question about the yogurt. Kind of late to the party here, but I was looking online on how to make it. Just have a couple questions.
Sure.
I heard you talk about the way that it makes.
Yeah.
I didn't see anything on the instructions on whether you eat it, don't eat it, or get rid of it.
Yeah, so this is a good question. I'd like to get rid of it. And actually, I save the whey to start my next batch. I don't waste yogurt starting the next batch of yogurt. I just save my whey. There's no one answer to this. It's really personal preference, but I'll give you a couple ideas. I like really, really thick yogurt. Like, the thicker, the better. In fact, I got to the point now, and, you just reminded me of something. I wonder if Lisa's listening. Angie, I know you're listening. Can you, I can't believe I'm going to do this, but I need to. Angie, can you send Lisa a text and ask her to take the yogurt out of the sous vide machine? It was supposed to come out an hour and a half ago. I forgot I had it timed right at 8 o'clock when I started the show. My yogurt batch was done, and I forgot to take it out. But what I do with mine now, when mine comes out of the sous vide, when it's done culturing, I put it in the refrigerator to chill it down. That thickens it up a little bit. Then I make 3-quart batches now, just kind of what I've settled on, and it works good. So I pour all 3 quarts into a big yogurt strainer. I have one that holds a gallon. And I just leave it in there. I put the whole strainer in the refrigerator, and then I just serve the yogurt right out of there. So it keeps getting thicker and thicker and thicker over time. It'll drop more and more of that whey out of there and just keep getting thicker, which I love. So I do it because I like the texture, really thick. There is another benefit. Most of the carbs that you're getting in yogurt are in the whey. When you get rid of the whey, you're getting rid of more carbs. You're making it even a more low carb, higher fat product, which is what I like about it, especially on a keto or carnivore diet. So it's totally up to you. Some people don't want to lose that product. They want all, if they made a gallon of yogurt, they want to eat a gallon of yogurt. I make a gallon of yogurt and I probably get 2 quarts out of it because I'll strain out that much whey. And I'll save some of the whey to make my next batch. It was the whey I was giving away to other people so they could make it. But I do strain mine and try to get as much of the whey out of there as I can. Just like I said, I just like the texture that way.
Okay, got it. And then you said that you started using potato starch. Is that correct?
I asked about it, and the first response I got was, sure, potato starch is easier, it doesn't clump up. And within an hour, I probably had 10 messages saying, you won't like the potato starch as much, it's grittier, it doesn't thicken as much. So I didn't even bother to try it. I just stuck with the inulin.
Okay, perfect. And then one last question. On the jars, when you submerge them, are the lids tight? And do you submerge them all the way or just up to the lid?
So I submerge mine in the water. I try to get it pretty close to the level of the yogurt inside the jar. It's not necessary. You could put the water level up to half of that jar, and it would still keep the jar at the right temperature. It's not critical. You could have it high, you could have it low. It's not really going to matter much. The lids, I kind of put mine on sort of maybe finger tight. I don't pay too much attention to that. I see people that sometimes they get siphoning and their yogurt ends up coming out of the jar. I've never really had that happen. And I've done it a bunch of different ways. I don't even pay attention to that. I fill my jars as much as I can just because I make 3 quarts and I have to get it almost right to the top of each jar. I put my lid on. I bring the water up pretty darn high, up over the shoulders of the jar, and I just let it go. I've never had a problem.
Okay. All right. I'm going to give it a try this weekend and see what happens.
Excellent. Yeah, I screwed up last week with our travel. My timing was off, and I actually ran out of yogurt and didn't have dairy to make another one. So I went 3 or 4 days without the yogurt. Man, I am really missing it. In fact, I'm looking forward to some right after the show today because I have a batch just finishing. Let's roll on into Arkansas. Mark, welcome to the program.
How you doing?
Good. What can I help you with today?
I just quick comment on your audio book there. I'm a little slow to embrace new technology. So up until probably a year ago, I was still getting audio books from my public library, and
nothing wrong with that.
Way back when they had and they were great. And I had read Atlas Shrugged back in school. It was required reading in a class I had in high school. That was many years ago, and I wish it was still required reading, but I got that out of the library, and it was, I don't know, 35 CDs or something like that, and it was just as interesting on audiobooks without having to. I mean, it was over 1,000 pages. It was the biggest book I'd ever read at the time, and but it was some slow spots in it, but it kept your interest. I liked it a lot.
I've heard.
Anyway, I was.
Don't mean to interrupt, but I've heard from a lot of people that it was required reading for them in their high school. It's certainly I shouldn't say it wasn't. I hardly ever showed up at school, so I could have easily just missed that. I didn't read it in school. I read it I was probably 26 or 27 the first time I read it. Absolutely loved it. Went on to read almost everything Ayn Rand has written. The Fountainhead is an excellent book.
Fountain, yeah.
We the People, The Anthem. I mean, she has some really, really good books. She's just an amazing writer for just pure entertainment. I mean, Atlas Shrugged was it was entertaining. It was just a really good story to listen to, but it's got such a critical political message in it too, and we're watching it come true. We're seeing it in our government, and she wrote that book in the 50s.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the most amazing things is it was written. You know, it's crazy. What I called about was a gentleman earlier called, all made the comments about with the fuel prices and the different fuel stops. I have no doubt whatsoever that everybody knows what their competitor is for. That's just business. But anyone, and I mean anyone in business, I'm a one truck operation. Anybody that's paying the list price at the pump is crazy. I get advertisements and emails for discount fuel cards, and I want it. It's through a Fleet One card, which is you know, they're just like the Comdata cards. They're accepted absolutely everywhere, and you know, I got a very simple app on my phone I can look at and you know, and tell the fuel prices of every place on my route and decide where I want to buy fuel. And there's a couple big chains there. I always have extra showers, and once in a while I'll find fuel cheaper at a Quick Trip or something, but not very often. And if you go by the retail prices, many times I'm getting 60 or 70 cent discounts off of the pump price, which, you know, I just say anybody, I'm sure you touched on this before, but anybody can get these discounts as long as you're, you know, as long as your numbers are good and you're not a credit risk, you know.
Well, a lot of times that doesn't even matter. There are tons of discount cards out there that are prepaid. You have to put the money up ahead of time. You don't have to have any credit to get these discounts. You could have you could have a 300 credit score. I can still go get a discount fuel card. I just have to fund it ahead of time. You're right. I've always been shocked in an industry where our number one cost is fuel. We use a lot of it. There's discounts everywhere, and there are still some people who never get a discount on their fuel. It's just insane.
Oh, yeah. And there's associations, I don't use them, but I have friends that are members of NASTC.
NASTC
one
is
of their,
famous for their fuel discount.
But, oh, yeah. And their fuel discounts are usually at TAs and Petros, the
big ones, right.
And they're really good discounts, yeah. And it just doesn't, you know, it comes down to nickels and dimes when you compare where you're going and what you need and what you're doing. But I'm just amazed that anybody would pay. I don't know why they put those cash prices up on the signs, because it makes it look crazy when, like the guy said, you'll be looking at a Quick Trip or a Casey's at $4.50 a gallon, and right next door there's a Pilot that the sign says it's, you know, $5.25, and you think, wow, that's crazy, but you know, the discounts even it all out.
That's also how we know there's no collusion. If there was true collusion in the fuel industry, you wouldn't see that price difference. You wouldn't have the option of going somewhere else and buying it cheaper. If they're colluding, it's not working.
That's right.
Yeah, it's not working. But you're right. The discounts have play a big part of this, and yeah, there's no doubt. All right, great stuff. Thanks for the. Go ahead. You caught me just in time. Almost hit the button. Go ahead. Yep.
Oh, I mentioned I was a little slow to embrace technology, and I'm having issues. In fact, just if I wouldn't have got an email a couple months ago from Pittsburgh Power, I wouldn't have even known how to get you back on my phone. I listened to you a lot when you were on XM or Sirius, but I guess I'm having some issues trying to order stuff from your store. When I tried to look at the store, every time I tried to order something, I got a page that was asking me about the NutriQ, which I'd never taken. Do I need to be a member of Healthy Tribe in order to order something from your store?
You don't have to be a member of Healthy Tribe, but you do have to create a membership, and that's why it keeps sending you to that page. The reason for that is it's our agreement with our supplement supplier. We don't.
Okay.
Technically, we're not allowed to sell our supplements to the general public. We sell them to our clients that we work with.
Is that something new?
No, it's always
because I have bought
in the very beginning, we didn't have that set up. And then when we renegotiated with our supplement supplier and we became such a big account for them that then they came back and said, hey, wait a minute, there are a couple things you're not really complying with correctly. So there was a time where you didn't have to do that. And then later on, we did have to set up that system.
Okay. Because I know that it's been several years, but, you called it the leaky gut kit back then.
Right.
But my wife wants to... it's called what is that called now?
I still think it's the leaky gut kit.
Oh, okay. My wife wants to go through that again. She's having some issues, and she doesn't eat. Well, neither one of us eat as quite as clean as we should. But
yeah, now once you fill that out one time,
we eat
then
better than we used to. So.
Yeah, then you won't have to do it again.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for the call. Phones are busy today. I love it. Speaking of which, he said he got an email from Pittsburgh Power a couple months ago. We really just sent out our first email this week about people on the app. I said in the beginning, I didn't want everybody to know about our show. We knew we had our core with us, and that's been plenty for us to do the show every day. Every now and then I would have to kind of ask for more and more calls, but boy, I can tell you it's changing already. We held back. We didn't want everybody yet because we were building our own technology. We knew there were going to be hiccups. There still are. But we're confident enough in our app now. We just sent out our first email this week, and the response has been pretty overwhelming. I was shocked. Everybody's like, oh, we had no idea you were still on the air. Hell, we only missed one day. We took one day off the air. My contract at Sirius got canceled on a Thursday. I took Friday off, and we actually went live on Saturday, and we've been live ever since. And the vast majority of our listeners did not know it. We weren't pushing it or promoting it. We are now. It's time. We want to get our listeners back up, and it looks like it's already happening. Phones have been really busy this week, and I love that. I also love being able to go a couple hours without taking a break. The show seems so much better for me this way. Let's go to Iowa. Brandy, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Kevin. This is off the caller that was calling about the IRS agent.
Yeah.
Yesterday was Google sends, like I said, if I'm talking about it or if I'm thinking about it, it seems like it's going to send me something.
I know.
And
so, it's kind of scary.
Redacted. I didn't. It's okay. It's entertaining. I don't understand it, but it's fine. It just keeps me more informed. Whether I'm being told the truth or not is another story.
Yeah.
But you had talked about redacted, and I never knew what it was. So I was listening to the YouTube video, and it was Charles Schwab, but also had to do with the IRS agent. Now, if you've heard the World Economic Forum, by 2030, they want to get to the point where you don't own anything and you're going to be really happy about it. So I was telling Angie that it's interesting that 87,000 agents, as well as Obama, and I don't know if this was what Rush said or he actually had that in his campaign, that he was going to have his own private army or something. And then also, I didn't get to say this, that Hillary has a fondness for Chairman Mao. And Chairman Mao also had the same philosophy that you own nothing and you'll be happy about it. The only problem is that takes away from the human spirit, and many of those people died. I guess maybe some by suicide. So I just find that everything about that's happening today, also with that World Economic Forum. And anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Got it. No, I certainly don't disagree with any of that. It's just it's hard to stay on top of all this. It's hard to fathom how fast this all has changed in just a couple of years. Not that we haven't been talking about all of this stuff for decades. We've talked about the Fed. We've talked about the gold standard. We've talked about the power grab. I just don't think anybody ever expected that it could have changed so fast.
Well, it's that philosophy. You can tear something down less than a minute, but it takes years to build something. So it took 200 years to make our country, but just take out the pins and it just collapsed.
Yeah,
and we're taking all the pins out, and it's collapsing. And you can see it, you can feel it.
Yep.
It's day to day. It's just day by day of what's coming next. Yeah.
I agree. It's a
Anyways,
crazy time, and just the next 75 days or so in the midterms are going to be really, really interesting. I am shocked at how fast this is turning around. A month ago, it looked
Mark
like
Levin
the Republicans
yesterday about
would take both the House and the Senate. It looked like a slam dunk. Now, when all the Republicans are running around saying it was a slam dunk, I was wishing that they would stop doing that just quietly. But all of a sudden, that seems to have shifted. It looks, if you start reading some of the polls right now and even look at the special election that just happened in New York, I'm starting to wonder what really is going to happen at the midterms.
If they get in for their second thing. I drive county roads, country roads, and stuff, but I was looking at all these car lots. If we go all electric, these car lots are what are they going to do with all this metal? And all those cars, the gas cars that...
they'll be around forever. They'll be around forever. We're not going to get rid of them. Well, think about it. If I had a 63 split window Corvette right now, my grandkids are going to have it. Nobody's going to get rid of that kind of stuff.
I mean, just basically the petrol to put in it.
And that'll still exist. It may be a specialty product. It may become really expensive at some point, but we're talking for 50 years from now.
Yeah. You're a lot more optimistic than I am.
Maybe. I'm an eternal optimist, I guess.
Well, that's okay. It kind of goes against the grain. It's like, how do you get there? How do you get where you can believe that the destruction that's happening in our world today is not going to really change absolutely everything, and we can get back?
I believe too much in the human spirit, and I believe that we've seen, as human beings in this country, we've seen the right way to do things. And we've gotten away from the right way of doing things. And the farther we get away, the worse it gets. And there are still a lot of people who believe that. That's what I'm confused about. I still believe there are a lot more people in the country who believe that. And there's evidence. And one of the things, look at news channels. CNN might as well be the press corps for this administration. And CNN is tanking. Nobody watches CNN. They have the worst ratings ever. They're firing everybody. The whole channel's a mess. And yet they are all for everything this administration has been all for. Fox, on the other hand, is the complete opposite. They're the one network that fights back against the daily press briefings. They're the one network that questions this administration hard. They are blowing every other news channel away as far as ratings go. That you have to take at least a little bit of a lesson from that there are an awful lot of people in the country who still believe in those conservative values. It seems like the majority.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
I mean, even if we go back to the last election and we could say the country was really divided right down the middle, Joe Biden got a couple more votes than President Trump did, but it was split. But since then, I think an awful lot of people who typically vote Democrat are having second thoughts.
Yeah, they're too extreme.
You know, each party tries to say the other party is too extreme. You know, Biden was trying to use that phrase ultra MAGA, and it never caught on. He even made the statement that the MAGA movement, and let's not forget what MAGA stands for. Make America Great Again. Kind of what I said. We've seen the right way to do this. We know what works and what doesn't. And we were trying to go back to that. That was the whole Make America Great Again thing. And Biden took that and claimed that the MAGA crowd was the most extreme political group that has ever existed in this country. That he made that statement. I completely disagree with that. I don't think there was anything all that extreme about it. I mean, I think that he's more of a libertarian than anything. And I guess some people think libertarians are extreme. I think the exact opposite. I think they're the least extreme. They want less government. They want more freedom, more individual autonomy, less government. I don't find that extreme at all. I think that's the human spirit. We don't want to be controlled by other people.
I agree.
And then, of course, the Republicans think that the Democrats have gone so far left that they're the most extreme party. And I tend to believe that. I mean, we're doing some pretty extreme things. When you absolutely know that inflation is the number one thing hurting people in this country today, and you just keep spending money. This week alone, in the last week, we're sending another $3 billion to Ukraine. Why are we funding their war? I don't get that. We are not the world police. We should not be funding their war over and over and over. Even if we could agree it's the right thing to do, we shouldn't be doing it because we can't afford it. We're broke. We're broken in debt. We can't afford to do the right thing, even if it is the right thing. And I'm not sure that it is in this case, but even if it were, we can't afford it. And sometimes you just have to look at the situation and say, I know it would be a good thing for me to help somebody else, but I can't help them until I help myself first, or we'll both perish. And that's the problem. We can't help other countries right now. We're broke. We need to fix our own problems first. But we just gave $3 billion more to Ukraine. They just passed a bill that is going to spend $700 billion more, whatever the number is. And Biden's now he thinks he can unilaterally, all on his own, I guess he's a dictator now, he can forgive student loan debt, which I don't think is legal, but he claims he can do it, which will cost us another $500 billion and drive inflation through the roof. And if you don't think those policies are extreme, then I don't know what to say.
Yes, they are. They absolutely agree with you there.
Yeah. It's just
not much we can do about it, though. That's the problem.
Well, we can. I hope. I hope we can vote in November and our process actually works.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying the Republicans are the end-all and be-all either, but at this point, I clearly believe that we'd be in far better hands with the Republican Party than we are with the Democrats. But that's just my opinion, of course. Brandy, I'm going to cut you loose. I'm going to grab another call here. We are off to Alabama. Dwayne, welcome to the program. Dwayne, are you there? Am I there? I'm there. I'm not hearing Dwayne. I'm going to put that call back in the queue. Angie, if you could check that line real quick. It's my last call, by the way, so I'll take a minute here. If you want to dial, I'm still here. If calls keep coming, I'll keep taking them. But right now, I've got one call left that I can't hear, so we'll see if we can figure that out. And if not, we'll wrap this up. Oh, today's Thursday. Angie, when are we doing Rolling Toe? Has anybody told me yet? No. Nobody told me. In 1 minute. All right. I guess I am going to wrap this up then. And let me think about this. Angie, I will keep the phones open. I'm not going to restart the phone system. I'm just going to restart the recording. And I think I'm just going to do that right now. Wrap this up. Start Rolling Toe. Don't go anywhere. Mike and Kevin Beckett will be joining us here in just a minute or two as I restart everything. So line up the calls for them. Remember, this is a talk show. All of our segments are talk shows. We want callers. You're a big part of this. Call in. I have to say, my calls have been stellar this week. I mean, I just went 2 straight hours without taking a break and had calls the whole time. I love that. So keep them coming for Rolling Toe. Another update, Joel is going to be joining us for Trucking Technology and Efficiency tomorrow, and we haven't heard from John yet. So I'm going to wrap this up today. I will see you back here tomorrow, but don't go away. Mike and Kevin Beckett are up next with Rolling Toe. Be safe, be profitable, be fit and healthy. Always do the hard work and master the journey.